In 2002, before 8 Mile came out, before the Grammys, before the awards, before any of it, Eminem stood on a stage in Detroit and went completely wild. No words, no music, nothing. Just a crowd full of people staring at him. And in that silence, which may have lasted for 30 seconds, felt like a lifetime. He made a decision that almost ended everything. He almost chose to disappear. And what stopped him wasn't confidence, it was a mindset shift. It wasn't someone telling him to believe in himself, it was something he understood about himself that most people spend their entire lives running from. And that thing, that specific understanding, is what separates people who hide their whole life from the ones who decide to show up anyway. Not the talented ones, not the prepared ones, or not even the ones who have a lot to say. And here is the thing, the ones who understood why they were hiding transformed that hiding from a wall into a door. And today I'm going to show you how to exactly do that and why we built that wall in the first place. And I promise you, by end of this video, you will see your own fear of visibility completely different. This is for you if you have a version of yourself you are comfortable with showing to only few selected people. A version that is sharper, bolder, more certain, that shows up fully in conversations only with people you trust and disappears the moment there is an audience. This is for you if you ever watched someone step into a room and own it completely and you felt two things: I want that and I could never. And this is for you if the gap between who you show others and who you think you are has started to feel less like caution and more like cage. And here is where we are going today. I'm going to show you what Eminem actually understood in those years after the stage fright. And I'm going to take you through something I call belief archaeology. And I'll give you 3 practices that you can do which are not about pushing through fear, because pushing through something without understanding what's happening under the surface is like painting on damp walls. It looks fine until it doesn't, because the way most people talk about fear of visibility is missing out one important thing, and until you see that, nothing changes. What I found working with founders, entrepreneurs, leaders is that fear of visibility is almost never about fear of being seen, but it is about being seen for who you actually are. And I call this identity gap. And once you understand how it forms and what it costs, hiding will never feel the same way again. So let's go back a little further than Detroit. Let's go to Warren, Michigan. A kid named Marshall Mathers, moving from school to school, city to city, new classroom, new kids, new hierarchy to figure out each and every time. And every time a new pair of eyes turned towards him, he learned something. And what he learned was the real Marshall, the one with the rage, sharp edges, wasn't safe to be shown. So he built a character. Slim Shady. Now, most people think Slim Shady was a creative decision, a brand, a persona for entertainment. But listen to what Eminem actually said about it. He said, Slim Shady was the version of himself that the real Marshall was too scared to say. Slim Shady could be seen because Slim Shady wasn't really him. So if the crowd rejected Slim Shady, real Marshall was still safe. Do you see what he built? He didn't overcome his fear of visibility. He created a version of himself that could be seen on his behalf. And here is what's fascinating. The moment his work became undeniable, he had to face the question that every person who has a fear of visibility has to face at some point, which is, was it me they accept, or was it the character? That question right there, that's the identity gap. And here is what I want you to understand about identity gap. The version of yourself that you show the world. It wasn't chosen, it was constructed. Piece by piece, approval by approval, rejection by rejection. From the moment you were old enough to read a room, to sense what got you celebrated and what got you dismissed, you started editing yourself. You kept the parts that were appreciated and buried the ones that got humiliated or rejected. That version, the version that got approved, became your identity. But here is the cost. Somewhere under that careful construction, there is a version of yourself that never got edited. The one that's got unpolished opinions, the one that has ideas that feel too big, the one that wants to take up more space than what you allowed yourself to take. And visibility, the one that kind of builds something, requires that self to show up. And the conditioning that you built throughout your life, it won't let that self to reach the surface. Not the approved version, but the actual one. Why? Because that's untested territory. Anything that's unknown to a belief system that's built on evidence and conditioning feels like threat. Now I want to ask you something, and I want you to really sit with this. Who were you before you learned which parts of yourself were acceptable? Because that version of yourself is the one that your audience, your clients, your business is waiting for. They're not waiting for polished version. Polished version is everywhere. They want real. I want to talk about something that doesn't get said enough in conversations related to visibility, because most of the talks were about what you can get by showing up. More reach, more business, more impact, more money. That is true, but I think the most important thing that needs addressing is the cost of being hidden. Not somewhere in the future, but right now. Every time you don't post a thing, every time you edit yourself, every time you recheck your script, you confirm the belief. Every time that fear shows up and you say yes to that, it's self evidence. You are telling yourself that you are not enough. It stifles your own creative essence that's looking for expression in the real world. It is about expressing who you are. Lady Gaga understood this. She was dropped by her first major record label within 3 months. Left her wondering if she wasn't enough for the market or if she is too different for the industry. And she also said the most dangerous part about this wasn't the rejection. It was the moment she started to believe it. The moment she started editing herself to fit the industry, she said, I had to remind myself that what made me weird was what made me. She stopped editing. She didn't go away from her, but she started going towards herself. And the self she brought to the stage, the one she's been told was too much, became the thing that made her irreplaceable. So, the next part, how do you move through this? These are the 3 practices. Before we move into more details, I want you to understand that everything you find on this channel isn't about pushing yourself through something, forcing something into change, or affirming over and over until you believe it. It is about understanding and moving in alignment with the rhythm of change. We don't force things, we understand the mechanics of change so that anything that happens can happen through least effort and more joyful unfoldment. So, practice 1, find the date of origin. Your fear of visibility has a birthday, a specific moment, or a specific day when being fully seen first became associated with something painful. They just carry it, unnamed, undated, unchallenged. It runs as though it is true, as though the conditions that created it are still the conditions of your life, which means it runs as though it is true and the conditions that created it are still the same. So here is the practice. Take a piece of paper, write at the top, the first time I learned it wasn't safe to be fully seen was, and then write. Don't edit, don't filter, just write until something real surfaces. It might be a classroom moment, a parent's offhand comment, a piece of work you were proud of that got dismissed, a time you were enthusiastic and the room went cold. When you find it, I want you to write this underneath that. This taught me to believe. And in that blank, fill in what you learned, and that belief made sense then. It is no longer true now. To give you an example, when I did this exercise, the statement was, this taught me to believe it's not safe to be me, and that belief made sense then. It is no longer true now. This is belief archaeology. You are digging it up to finally see that it is in the past. And the beliefs it built were conclusions that were drawn by someone with far less information, far fewer resources, and far less agency than you have right now. Now, practice 2. Shrink the stage. One of the common mistakes that people make who want to overcome fear of visibility is going too big too fast. They go from hiding completely to posting online, pitch on stages, go live every week. And when the fear response hits, they conclude that they can't do this. What the evidence shows, and this is well documented in behavioral psychology, and it goes, new identities are built through repeated small acts, not through single giant leaps. So here is the practice. Identify the smallest possible version of visibility that feels like a stretch, and do that repeatedly until your subconscious can see this new evidence and can update your self-concept, until the story you tell yourself shifts from I am someone who hides to I'm someone who shows up. Because here is what changed for Eminem between Stage Fright and 8 Mile. He didn't wait until he was confident. He went back to the underground rap battles. Smaller stages, smaller crowds, places where he could rehearse being seen without the stakes being too high. He built the identity through new evidence until showing up became natural than disappearing. Now here is the third practice. Change who the visibility is for. This is the one that rewires the whole thing. Right now, when you think about being visible, about posting, speaking, showing up fully, your self-concept frames it as I'm asking people to look at me. And that framing makes visibility look like vanity, like putting yourself in a way that invites criticism and judgment. Here is the reframe. You're not asking people to look at you. You are making yourself findable for people who need what you offer. Those are completely different acts. One is self-centered and one is service-oriented. When it becomes less about you and more about others and what you offer, it stops being what will they think of me and becomes who am I failing to help by staying hidden. And that question has different weight to it. And in actuality, that's the truth. Anything you do for others rather than for yourself has different weight and quality to it, because it puts the cost of being hidden where it actually belongs. Not on your comfort, but on the people whose lives could change if you decide to show up. Lady Gaga didn't go on stage for herself. She said this. She went back for the kid in the crowd who'd never seen someone like her given permission to fully exist. Eminem didn't write Lose Yourself about himself. He wrote it for every person who's ever stood at the edge of their moment and felt their body betray them. Visibility stopped about them being seen. It became about someone else being found. I want to say something to the person who has been carrying this for a long time. The hiding has been expensive, not just in the opportunities that you didn't take, in the slow, quiet ways in which it changed how you see yourself. Because when you hide long enough, when you consistently choose hiding over exposure, you start to believe that hiding is who you are, that you are just a private person or behind the scenes person. And I want to offer you a different possibility. And the possibility is that what if the belief that you don't like being seen is something that a person who has learned very early that it wasn't safe to be seen. Those are not the same things. One is identity and one is conditioned behavior. You have been practicing so long, it started to feel like identity. And conditioned behaviors like identity can change. You don't need to blow the doors off. You just need to start somewhere small. Start showing yourself evidence that it is different now. The version of you that has something real to say, the version of you that you have been keeping hidden, the world hasn't rejected that version. It never had the chance to meet it. Hope you found something valuable in this video and it helped you in some way. Share your comments, leave your thoughts. I appreciate it. See you in the next one.